Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's online coach. Today, we've got Ellie, who is a phenomenal health and strength coach. Ellie is also one of the WFA educators up in Sydney, and it's so good to connect with more of our educators nationally. If you girls remember, not long ago, Alex and I connected via this podcast, who is also one of the WFA educators. And for those who don't know or don't follow Ellie yet, she is one strong woman. I've watched several of her videos and I'm just in awe of her lifting, and they are so inspiring. So before we get started, Ellie, can you please tell our listeners a summary of who you are, what is it exactly that you specialize within your coaching, and what inspired you to become a PT?
Well, that intro was lovely. I'm flattered. Thank you. My name's Ellie. I've been working as a PT for, I think, about five and a half years now. I specialize in, as you said, health and strength coaching. I'm actually sort of rebranding at the moment.
Ooh, that's exciting.
So I'm still getting used to what words am I? Am I health and strength? But I think health and strength sort of, I don't know, it sort of aligns with what I do the most. I train men and women in person and online. I'm based in Sydney, so my face-to-face is obviously in Sydney. And what inspired me to be a PT? Honestly, I fell into the job, I would say. I don't think it was something, I know this isn't really the conventional answer, but it wasn't something that I had this huge pull towards. It was more, and we can get into this if you want, at the time of my life where I was sort of like slowly moving towards it. And it was more a matter of, okay, we're here, so let's go for it. And then as I, started to do it and actually get into the job, I started, to love what I was doing more and more. But yes, it was more so something that I loved training, and I had an opportunity to see what it was, to do the course, to be a PT, and then to start being a PT, and sort of just went from there. And then, my love for it grew.
So good. I love that. I reckon let's go into that story since you mentioned that. So
in what year was it? What are we? 2020? Maybe I think 2015. I'd taken a gap year after school, and then I went to uni and I started studying something completely unrelated to PT, to health and fitness. I did a bachelor's degree in arts business, majoring in criminology. So totally unrelated. I always thought I wanted to be a lawyer. When I was little, was either a lawyer or a fashion designer. And then we sort of pushed the fashion design a bit out, and it was more towards law. Then I decided I didn't actually want to be a lawyer, but I'd like to do something in law. So I majored in criminology. I got halfway through my degree, and I had, at the same time, after my gap year, I started training more and more. I was first doing I never know how to pronounce her last name, but Kayla, it seems, I don't know how people say her last name. Yes. Yeah. Well, I know she's big, but I never know how to say her last name. Anyway, I was doing all her BBG circuits. And then I think one of my friends was like, come on, you got to get into weight training. I was like, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. I'm good. I was doing my circuits. And then I got into weight training, and from the get-go, I started to really love the getting strong sides of things. And I was working with a PT, and then I worked with another PT after about a year. And this was whilst I was studying. And I got about halfway through my degree, and I just thought, what are you doing? What are you going to do with this degree at the end? Because I didn't have this job that I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was really into my training, and I thought, all right, well, if there's a time for you to do your certificate 3 and 4 in fitness, it's now. Maybe just, defer, and you're not going to know what to do in that time. I was going to work, while I was deferring. So I thought, may as well just do the course. Makes sense to do it now. So did the course. I wasn't even planning on working as a PT. I just thought I'll just do it for fun. And then I had one friend, actually a friend of my mum's, said to me, she was just being very supportive and said, oh, I'd love it if you trained me when I finished. And I thought, well, if one person thinks I can do this, then, I should give it a shot. Because I thought, maybe I'll just work at a gym where they sort of pay me an hourly rate or something, maybe just to like make the money back from the course. And see what it's like. And I thought, yeah, she thinks I can do this. So, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I applied to work at Fitness First, where they employ for the first months and then you become a franchisee. And yeah, did the first 6 months thinking, okay, we'll see after this. I probably won't move up, to the franchisee level. And I did. And 5 years later, I am still there.
So good. I love that. Like, sometimes you just look at certain things in life and you're like, it just fell in place in the right moment, even though at the time you didn't really think about, like, you wanted to become a lawyer and did the criminology, and then you're just like, oh, actually, like, this is not really for me. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because like I came from a history of arts and photography. I was a professional photographer before I even became a PT. So then when you go through that transition, you're like, how did that happen? It's so like weird. And I love how the fact it just naturally happened for you as well. You didn't have to like force yourself to do it. You mentioned before that you train males and females.
Yeah.
And it's predominantly strength at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, predominantly, yes.
I love that.
Or like I would say health and strength. So strength could be, I have some clients who compete in powerlifting. I have some who just want to train to be healthy, to be fit, but whilst doing that, they want to keep them, going in the gym and, to have some goals to work towards. They'll set strength-based goals. I have some clients who are focused on body comp specifically, as opposed, because obviously they can go hand in hand. I don't have many though who focus on body comp predominantly over strength. But yeah, generally strength, I would say, sort of leads the path that most of them follow, as lame as that sounds.
I love that. No, not lame at all. It makes complete sense. In terms of the strength compartment side of things, you're a powerlifter. How long have you been powerlifting for now?
I did my first comp in May. I think it was either 2018 or 2019. I think it was it would have to be 2018. Sorry, because 2020 we didn't really compete. 2018. Yes. So first comp was May 2018. I watched some videos a few weeks ago of me at my first comp, and there's such a difference between how people approach the bar at their first comp versus at their, like, I don't know, 7th comp or something like that. I was so nervous. A minute to initiate the lift and I just like run up to the bar. I'm like, I got to do this now. I'm terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get caught out. And just like I was doing this breathing, like very stressful to watch, but it was great.
And now you just literally approach the bar like it's nothing.
Yeah, there's still nerves always. There's always nerves. I was going to say just on, your first squat of the day, but it's not true, because the third squat is a lot more than the first squat. But no, there's still nerves. You just, I guess you expect them a little bit, a lot more than you would the first couple of times.
I love that. You mentioned that before you became a PT, you were doing a little bit of like circuits, like the BBG program. Yes. And then your friend initially, was it your friend initially like got you to get started with the weight training, or how did you get into it?
You know what? I don't know. I know that, so one of my best friend is a guy, and we were talking about it the other day. He said to me that he remembers saying to me, he was the one saying, come on, Ellie, like give this a go. But then I also separately remember always training with one of my girlfriends. So I think possibly my guy friend was the one who sort of got me through the door. And then I was sort of training on my own and a little bit with him, I think. And then once I was going with it a little bit more, I was training with my female friend. But I actually can't remember exactly. Before I was doing the circuits, so when I was at school, I was doing, where are you based? Are you based in Melbourne?
Yeah, Melbourne.
Okay, so when I was in year 10, I think is when you were as young as you could join the gym, like 16. I joined the gym and I got really into my classes, like body attack, body pump, loving
Loved
it.
body pump.
Like I started off at the back of the class. I loved body attack even more. Attack was my thing. I actually was a runner at school. I'm very long-limbed, so I did middle distance running. That was my thing. So I loved body attack because that was the weights thing. I was like, I don't want to get too bulky, but like I know I know you're supposed to do it. So I'll do my body pump to get my weights in. But I remember starting, like way at the back of the class, and then towards the end of it, or I'd say middle, the end, I was front and center. Like everybody look at me, doing my claps as you run forward. I loved it. Anyway, it was the best. And this is when my friend was like, as well, you got to start doing it. So I was like, I got this. And then when I started HSE, which is VCE in Victoria, I remember thinking, no, I lie. I'm so sorry. I started
It's all coming back to you now.
Sorry. I started off doing 2 hours of cardio. That's what it was. It was a flip. Sorry. I started off doing 2 hours of cardio. So I would have, this is when I was 16, I would have like some calorie goal that I would have to burn every single time I was in the gym. And it was like 700 or 800 calories on the machine. And I could make it up however I wanted, but it had to be on the, it had to be that number that I set for some random amount. Anyway, so I would spend about 2 hours in the gym. And this was when I was in year 10 and 11. So 16, 17, just like, pushing myself, 2 hours doing cardio. Then when I did my HSC and VCE, I thought, I can't spend 2 hours here after school every day. So that's when I started the classes because they were an hour long. But yeah, I initially started doing 2 hours of cardio, which was not very healthy at all. There were some, I'd say, other issues going on at that time as well, definitely being a teenager. But then the cardio moved into classes, which moved into the circuits, which moved into the weight training. I think due to my friends sort of, nudging me a little bit to start with some weights.
Isn't that funny? Because like you're literally reminding me how my high school activity was. Like I was very sporty as a young age, like you, like very into like soccer and running, and then eventually like into the cardio section at the gym and the classes, and then eventually you get into the weights area. So yeah, it's very interesting. And I love the fact that you also mentioned that you recognize now that you did 2 hours of cardio, which was not serving you.
Oh, not
whatsoever.
At all. Not at all. I also know it was coupled with unhealthy habits, as I said at the time, as like other unhealthy habits. And I think I sort of blocked some of them out, but I know I was going down a track, and my parents remember as well, like a track of some sort of disordered eating. And I can't even remember, again, because I sort of blocked it out, how we got out of it. But I remember it was my birthday. I must have been like 15 or something. And I went out for lunch with my mum and my brother. And I ate, when you go for sushi, sometimes they just put like they cut out like a star carrot. They cut out a carrot in a shape, and they put the garnishes on top. And I thought that, my lunch was the garnish, like the little carrot piece and the piece of lettuce. And I remember my mom, the first time she just burst into tears. She was like, you can't eat that for lunch. It's not, she didn't know she just was so upset and so overwhelmed that she didn't know what to do. And I could not comprehend what was wrong. I was like, I don't understand. This is plenty. Like, what is wrong? Why are you telling me off? Like, I don't get it. And it was sort of then, and then I was also starting, there was overlap with that, and then going to the gym, doing cardio for hours at a time. And again, I wish I could remember, but I can't remember how I even got into those circuits. But even, those and like the classes were so much better than doing 2 hours of cardio and not really eating at all. I also remember, sorry, it's still coming back to me now.
So good, I love it.
There was like really hot, like terrible habits that I think sometimes maybe it just, it doesn't really happen around people. So others don't really pick up on it, and people don't really, or at least then people didn't really know what to say. But I remember at school, you know, I'd pack my lunch, and like we had a great canteen, and I would purposely pack myself like not enough food, and it would just be some boring salad with nothing in it, and like just fruit but not enough that I knew I would be hungry. And then I wouldn't like give myself money, so that if I got hungry, I couldn't go to the canteen and buy something. I would just have to have what I had, and then I'd go to the gym in the afternoon and do my 2 hours of cardio. So yeah, we definitely didn't start in a good place. I luckily got out of that place, but yeah, it was that would have been, you know, 10 years ago now, but it was, yeah, not a good place to start at all. And I think it's a place that a lot of people, a lot of young women and girls, unfortunately, start in, and often don't recognize how harmful that place is.
Yeah, so true. I can totally relate to that. Like, as you're saying, like not giving yourself money for like, you know, lunchtime, or like giving yourself enough food to eat. Like, terrible. I remember, yeah, it's so weird when you like look back, you're like, why did I do that to myself? Like, what triggered me not to want to eat a little bit more? Like, is it society? Is it like looking at your external environment, whether it's like friends or family? Because, you know, like not to like go into the whole story of it, but like sometimes when I look back of my behaviors, it refers back sometimes to my mum, because she used to have really bad relationship with food. So right. That would have triggered my patterns of how I treat myself with food. And as you said, we see so many young girls do that these days. I think the generation is completely different now to what it was back then for us.
Yeah.
And a lot of their pressure that they have is, well, social media these days. I didn't have social media back then.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
I had Tetris, I had Mario, like I had nothing like that.
I had Candy Crush, and I still have Candy Crush.
Oh my God, Candy Crush. God, I used to be obsessed with it. But I really like, I really like the fact that you mentioned how you see this in certain clients, or like younger girls that you come across.
I think the way you were just saying that, you know, that it doesn't really happen so much anymore. I think it's true, but to an extent, because it's almost like now there's sort of this belief that like, I know I should love myself at whatever size I am, and I know this, and I know there's this whole body positivity movement, but it's almost like that's just sort of the facade, and there's still all this shit, like when you sort of dig deep down, that we haven't actually dealt with. So it's sort of confusing. People don't really outwardly say it so much anymore. They feel bad for wanting to lose weight, even if sometimes it's, you know, not necessarily for negative reasons, but oftentimes it is. And I think, there's sort of this push between, I know I shouldn't be feeling like this, but I do. And it almost, it's the sort of like, it's the same beast, but it's presented in a slightly different way, because we're trying to do good, because so many people are trying to do good, you know, with like the Haze movement, and just trying to not push the need for all bodies to look, you know, a certain way. But I personally think that those issues are so ingrained, and they've existed for such a long time, that it's going to take a really long time to undo them. So yeah, I definitely definitely see it now. And I will take, I have a strange relationship with, taking clients through fat loss phases. I'll try to do as thorough of a, you know, screening, even if they're, you know, we've already worked together, before we actually start, you know, that fat loss phase, to ensure that, you know, the client is in a good place to diet.
Yeah.
In the end, though, I'm a PT, I'm not a psychologist. So, you know, my judgment is just my judgment. Oftentimes I'll say to people, you know, that I maybe don't think it's a great idea. Often I'll push, like creating healthy habits, as opposed to specifically aiming for weight loss. But ultimately, I do still see it in clients and in potential clients. And then, you know, if you want to say to someone, like, I'm not sure that this is a great idea for you, it's a really hard pill for people to swallow as well. So often they may just not want to hear it, and then they might go to someone else who'll just go, yeah, cool, let's do this. And, you know, just sort of perpetuates the issue.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because like early in the years of being a PT, we usually take on board whoever, whenever, and if whatever goal they want, we'll please them, because you know, we want the money, we want to help them. But as you develop better as a coach, and as you coach more people, you notice certain behaviors and patterns that you're aware of. And I really like the fact that you mentioned that, hey, sometimes you just have to have a real chat with a client and be like, is this actually a good time for you to diet?
Yeah.
Whether, you know, there's stress or work is shit, or they're going through a breakup, or as you said, like they may have some eating disorders that you're picking on. Have you come across a situation like that you're just like, hey, I don't think this is a good stage for you to diet?
Yes. Yes, quite a few. I've had even, you know, younger clients where there's been sort of little red flags that I have then decided to flag. And to be honest, it often backfires, sort of, as in, you know, the client does become quite upset. Not upset, but you know, it's a really touchy, hard subject. Generally, they are deep down grateful, or they're not angry at you for saying it, but it's just a really touchy subject. And generally their initial reaction is a bit, they're a bit confused or hurt or upset, and then they sort of come to after a few days. But I have had people, where I've flagged it and they maybe couldn't, you know, believe it, you know, because it's just such a shock. And then I have had people actually leave as the result, which is okay. I think I know it's the right thing for me. Like I know that saying when I think very politely, saying something, if I think something's not right, you know, I will say it. I can't take someone, you know, I can't push someone into the ground when I know they're literally going to be pushed into the ground and not be able to get back up again. But at the end of the day, I know it's sort of the right thing to do. I've also to flag it. I've also had people though who are very receptive to it, and you know, even if it takes them a little bit of time to come to it, that's generally more so the case. People are quite receptive. But yeah, I as I said, I have a strange relationship with dieting, to the point where there's I'm yet to come across many people who want to lose weight, and I stop and think, this is a perfect scenario. There's nothing flagged here. There are some, but it's few, because the desire to lose weight is, as you said, society, family, friends. There are so many pressures and pressures that we can't even comprehend. Like some of them, you know, they just go into our subconscious, and we don't even register that we're being influenced in certain ways. So yes, I've definitely dealt with it. And I, as you said previously, would just go, yeah, whatever you want, fantastic. And now it just doesn't sit right with me to not flag something very politely if I notice it. Generally, we can figure it out, but if we don't, that's okay. And they're generally still grateful for me pointing it out. It's just, you know, it's just a difficult pill to swallow.
Yeah, totally. And you know, like looking back over the years, it just bites you back in the ass for not actually being honest with the client about the situation. But then again, we all learn from our mistakes. Like totally. That's how you do. And I love the fact now that you're very well aware of those red flags. What are some of the red flags that you look out for when a client's not ready to diet?
So I would say, firstly, when there's people who are repeatedly flagging that they would like to diet, so that is a persistent goal. It can either be where they have, and this might be someone I've worked with in the past, or when we go into their history, they've worked with other coaches and their goal has been to lose weight. So either they have actually achieved some weight loss, you know, but they're not content with it, or they've tried many times and it's just failed, but it's generally been that they've just gone from doing whatever they were doing and then just totally changing their routine, and they're not being able to stick to it, and then they get really upset about not having achieved the results. And it's sort of, so these, I guess, these this sort of vicious cycle. So if someone says that they have attempted to, or they have dieted multiple times, that would be a flag. The way someone speaks about themselves, constantly talking about food, and constantly talking about their desire to lose weight, or, you know, the fact that maybe they're not happy with themselves. They would probably be the main ones. So it would come down to history, but also very much so the way someone is speaking about themselves and their goal, and repeatedly talking about food and bringing it up, or, you know, saying, oh yeah, but, you know, have you seen the calories in this, or have you seen the calories in that, which is okay. You know, you look at some foods and you're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy, like I'll just have it occasionally. Do you know what I mean? It's fine, still have it. But when they're repeatedly talking about, like, oh, this is so dense in calories, or have you seen this, or have you seen that, or, you know, I can't possibly eat an ice cream, or I can't eat bread, I'm skipping my breakfast at the moment. They would sort of be the red flags that I'd be looking at.
I think they're great points, especially the ones who talk about fat loss continuously and about food. Like, that's a huge red flag when someone's just constantly worried about how much, what is, and, like, you know, even like going out. Like, I've dealt with several clients who have anxiety of like eating out.
Yeah,
they're not sure how they're going to go about that, and, you know, that's a huge red flag that you're wanting to find the root cause of that.
Yeah, and just even the fear of it, you know, the fear of going out, and then, you know, obviously people, you either, then they go one of two ways. Okay, cool, I'm not going to go anywhere, I'm just going to stay home, I'm not going to eat out, which I will say, as I said, weird relationship with fat loss. If someone is in a decent place and they're dedicated to a fat loss phase, it's like, obviously I don't train bodybuilders, but a bodybuilder is not going to eat out during their prep, right? Yeah. Or just as, you know, maybe if you're in, you know, the real like peak of a fat loss phase, you might not, you know, eat some meals out for like 3 weeks. Okay, fine. But it's when maybe you're not in that fat loss phase and you're really nervous to eat out, I think that's a red flag. And then, yeah, the alternative is you stay home, or you go the other way and you do eat out and you just go, screw this, whatever, I'm just gonna have everything because I'm not going to be able to do this again, or I'm just going to prove to myself that I can actually eat out if I want to, and then it can sort of become more of a binge. So this is just, I guess, what I've noticed from working with clients, obviously not as a psychologist or anything.
Yeah, of course. I love that. And it's a really good way for our listeners to understand that once they go into becoming a coach, or for those who are already coaches, is noticing those red flags of when they speak to their clients, or when they hear clients or even their friends talking about foods or certain ways. I think it's very important to just build more self-awareness around that. Around that talk.
One thing to add, I am of the view that a lot of these are psychological issues and they need to be treated accordingly. And for any coaches who are sort of, I guess, have the same view, it can be really, really scary. And this is what I was sort of alluding to before, to try to suggest, you know, you can refer a client to a physio or a chiro, no problem. You know, it's pretty easy to do so. But to say, hey, look, it might be worth speaking to someone about this. Depending, even if you have a really good relationship, it's quite a touchy subject. So an easier way to go about it, if you do find yourself in this position, is to say, okay, why don't you have a chat to your GP about this? They go to the GP, and then the GP, you know, and they've obviously got more authority than we do as PTs. They can be the one who maybe refers them to a psychologist if they think it's necessary. Because I've tried before to, you know, a couple of times try to sort of make the direct referral with really good intentions, but it's not always well received, and it's pretty scary to actually say. So an easier way to do it is to say, maybe recommend someone to see their GP, have a chat to the GP, and if the GP thinks that it's necessary, then they can make the referral, so you don't have to make it to a psychologist.
I think that's a great idea. And just like you said, like coaches, we don't have the authority to tell someone who has an eating disorder. So for them to get actual medical advice, I think that's really, really good advice. Let's talk a little bit about strength now. I know you mentioned before that you're going through this transition. Is it more towards like the health and strength, or is it just strength? What's happening?
Just in terms of, look, to be honest, it's sort of been put on pause because I've had some other life stuff. I just bought a property. So
yeah, you did.
That's been sort of the things I've been sort of focusing on, all the bank stuff for the last few weeks. But I had been wanting to slowly rebrand, and I'm still not entirely sure where it's going to go. But I think at one point, like, my card said strength and conditioning, and I was like, what is this conditioning element? You know, I don't really think it's exactly what I do anyway. So general health and well-being, I would say, and with I guess achieving that as with, you know, strength as one of the avenues is more so where I would see myself as a coach. Just as we were saying, you know, like some people, maybe it's not a great idea to diet. You know, a lot of my clients, they just want to train and to feel good, and they want to have a routine, and they just kind of want someone in their corner, you know, creating, I guess, you know, the map for them as to their fitness. And I like to use strength as a really positive, I guess, branch of health and fitness.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good. And I love how it intertwines in together as well. It's not something like one specific. It's like a more, I don't like the word holistic.
Yeah,
like it's more like a lifestyle change for people.
Yeah, there's that. And then there's also the powerlifters. I would say that's sort of my two camps, but obviously they intertwine somewhat because, you know, some people might just start out as, you know, normal average people who go to the gym, but above average, but people who go to the gym, and then they, you know, focus on their strength. They go, you know what, maybe I'll try a comp. And then, you know, they sort of switch over into that powerlifter category.
I love that. So good. Are you training clients to become powerlifters as well at the moment?
Yeah, I have some. It's been weird with COVID.
Yeah.
So it's all sort of been on hold. Comps are sort of starting to come up again. But yes, I have some powerlifting clients, and then other just general health and well-being, strength focused, I would say, clients.
I love that. And how's your training going along? I know, like, throughout lockdown and stuff, how did you go around that?
So I bought a squat rack and a bar and all that sort of stuff. I'm lucky to have the space to train out of. I knew that when the Sydney lockdown was announced, they said it was just going to be for a week, but I still went out and bought all this equipment because I thought it would probably be a little bit longer. And I really enjoy that type of training. And I knew, you know, I could still do other things and maintain not strength, but I could maintain my muscle mass, which would then make it easier to get stronger again when the gyms open back up. But I just enjoy barbell training. So I got a squat rack. I started with a squat rack, bar, bench, plates. And then I ended up also getting a pair of adjustable dumbbells. And I was training lots of clients online and also some outdoors in the park. So like we had the adjustable dumbbells and bands and all that sort of stuff. But I continued to train with my barbell dumbbells. So it was good. It was really useful to have that outlet and to continue being able to train pretty much as I like. I have actually found it quite challenging, though, mentally, to get excited for training. Just in the last few months, even now, I think maybe just because, you know, there's still other things going on, which is, you know, as I said, like the property, rebranding, like it's really exciting. But, you know, I'm not going to do a comp for quite a few months. So I'll always get my training done, but I've just found it like a bit of a, I don't know, slog to actually do it. It will happen, but I'm like, ugh.
Do you think, well, have you come across this with your clients during lockdown as well?
Yeah, there were very few who were really, really keen to train. I found that, you know, the more equipment people had, the more keen they were to train. So clients, you know, who maybe got squat racks, they were more keen to train than those who didn't. But I would convince most of my clients, because we couldn't even have people at our houses. So I can't move my squat rack. So I couldn't even have people to come and train, you know, in my setup. So I was telling most of my clients to get a pair of adjustable dumbbells up to like 20 kilos. And those who did started to enjoy their training a lot more, but it still was really difficult. You know, they're training like in their lounge room, in their kitchen, in wherever. I think Zoom sessions, I would say, like with me, made it a lot easier for a lot of people. Because, you know, they've got someone actually pushing them, like it's a PT session. But yeah, just doing it themselves, you know, they move from their desk and they just step back and start doing their training session. Yeah, they were not loving it, but they did it.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Like, I can so relate to that. Like, you and I, we went above and beyond to buy the equipment and, you know, get set up, like with clients who don't have, you know, that equipment. They do find it slightly difficult to stay, you know, motivated, as much as I hate that word, but inspired to train. So I really like how, you know, from all the shit show that we've been through, we have been able to make some more of a connection with clients through Zoom.
Yeah.
So still being able to make connections, still being able to train them, which I think is so useful to so many people.
Totally. It's really cool. This is not really, I guess, lockdown related, but it's so cool the things that you can do now with technology and training. I'm so proud of this. I got a call from my grandma in Melbourne, actually, over the weekend, she said, you know, she's never really done any weight training. She's in her 80s. She said, Ellie, feeling really, you know, positive now that the lockdown's lifting. I really want to do some exercise. Could you give me like one exercise to do? And I'll just do it every day for like a week. And then we can add on an additional exercise, because I don't want it to be too much that I won't do it. So I Zoomed her. I said, of course, you know, but I'm not going to just give you the exercise. I need to see how you do it first. I thought, you know, it might be a bit tricky to do over Zoom, considering her age, but, you know, I've done this for a while and I've done lots of Zoom sessions. Let's give it a go. Taught her how to do squats over Zoom. It was fantastic.
So
and
good.
Could even like correct her technique. And it was fantastic. But like, it's so cool that you can do that even with someone of that age over Zoom.
I'm surprised that she was able to know how to use Zoom.
Oh, she's great. She's good. She can flip the camera, everything.
I love it.
Good.
Go Nana.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm so proud. Now we're checking in. And she's like, yeah, I've done my squats today. I'm going to do them this afternoon. I was like, oh my God, don't do too many. You're going to be so sore. You won't be able to walk. It's like, just do 3 sets. That's fine for now.
Bless. I love that. Keeping them young.
Exactly.
So good.
I love that. What we can do.
Yeah, it's amazing. The fact that you know, even though face-to-face sessions like are a highlight for a lot of our clients, because you have more of that, you know, physical energy, but I still, like you said, I still do believe the Zoom sessions have been really empowering for a lot of our clients.
Totally. I think so too.
I love that. So good. Before we go, what are some lessons that okay, let me rephrase that. I'm like trying to like think the best way to ask you this question.
Okay.
What are some lessons that you've learned during this time in lockdown that you would like to share with our listeners?
Would you say as a coach, as a person, as a lifter?
As a coach, as a person, lifter, woman?
I would say that it can be a really, when things change and they become, you know, more difficult, it's really easy to sort of spiral and get yourself into a really dark place, and it's dark, and you have to do the necessary things. And we generally all have our own sort of coping mechanisms that we know what they are, but when we're not feeling great, we don't want to implement them. But you have to sort of have some strategies to just keep yourself going and feeling good. And sort of tied into that, it actually can be a really good productive time, especially if you keep up some connection with people. You know, if you live with people, you know, even though they're going to drive you crazy because you're seeing them every single day, you know, make the most of it and do exciting things together, or like get out and go for a walk when you need some time to yourself, and then come back and really enjoy their company. And if you live on your own, you know, do lots of things over Zoom, even if you maybe don't feel like it one day, you've had a hard day at work. It's just really important to stay connected for our mental health. And it also can be a really productive time if you allow it to be. I would say those would be probably the most major things. Also, just to be kind to yourself. If, you know, your training backed off a little bit, you know, it's fine. If you didn't train at all, not to worry about it. In saying that, I think, you know, okay, you've backed off, that's totally fine. Now, if you're saying to yourself, all right, I really want to get back into it, cool. Or whenever you said you want to get back into it, awesome. Let's like do something about it. Do you know what I mean? Because the longer you don't train, the easier it is to just continue not training. It's much easier to maintain the training routine than to start it all over again. And if you haven't been training in lockdown, it's really hard to start again. But if you say, all right, I want to do it, like go book in some PT sessions, get a coach, go to the gym with a friend, whatever it is, just do some things so that you've got some structure in place so that you actually do get started again. Because otherwise you're just going to keep going in the circle. I really want to do it, but you haven't done it for such a long time that it's just easier to maintain that. So yeah, strategies to keep you feeling good, human connection, and it's okay if you haven't trained. It really is okay. Like, you don't owe anything to anyone. You're good. But if you want to start, do what you need to do to get started.
I love that. So powerful.
Well.
Yeah, it all integrated really nice. And you know what? It's a matter of putting those little habits into place. Like you said, it's just being aware of what are you doing right now that isn't serving you, and what are you needing to change to get you back onto that path for you to become, you know, your best self. I love that. 100%. So good. So good. I absolutely loved having you on. Thank you. Such a fun talk. Before we go, where can our listeners find you?
So my Instagram is Ellie Silvers Fitness, and our team, like client Instagram, is Team ESF with an underscore at the end. That's my Instagram. Or if you want to just say hey and you don't have Instagram, you can email me at elliesilversfitness@gmail.com.
Amazing. And are you still taking face-to-face clients in Sydney?
I have few spots depending on availability for face-to-face, but I have much more availability for online. And obviously that, you know, that's worldwide.
I love that. So good. Well, for those who are in Sydney, if they're looking at getting back on that path, maybe reach out to Ellie. Maybe she'll be the go-to girl for you to get you strong and healthy. Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. Love it. My favorite.
Love it. So good. So good. Awesome, girls. Well, thank you so much for joining in today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, please screenshot, tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy. And then until then, stay healthy and strong.